So today I'm going to be talking about preparation. If you're ever going to Google preparation, I don't recommend it because then you'll be seeing ads pop up for Preparation H everywhere. So yeah, just don't do that. Just learn from what I tell you today what preparation means. So in life, you've got to prepare, whether it's your family life, your school life, or your work life. Being prepared is instrumental in living a successful life. The best way to learn is from example, and there's a lot of famous quotes out there on preparation. Once again, don't Google it, just watch the video that I prepared for you.
Here are some quotes to inspire you. Before anything else, preparation is the key to success. I believe that people make their own luck by great preparation and good strategy. The best preparation for good work tomorrow is to do good work today. There are no secrets to success. It is the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe.
I love that Abraham Lincoln quote in particular. It says, "Give me 6 hours and I'll spend the first 4 preparing." I think that's a great example of what we have to do because, if you have 6 hours to do something and your axe isn't sharp enough, you're not going to accomplish the task. So by preparing yourself, you're preparing yourself to succeed. Obviously, he has a lot of amazing quotes out there. Another one that wasn't on that list, said frequently by John Wooden and originally by Ben Franklin, is, "By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail." Probably one of the more popular preparation quotes out there. And what it means is it's better to not have an opportunity and be prepared than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. Because success loves preparation. So are you prepared in your life? If the perfect opportunity presented itself, would you be ready for it? What you should do is spend your days preparing for success so when that opportunity comes, you will be ready. For example, a student, if you're going to be taking a test, your ACTs or even the finals or even just a test now that we're in school season, if you show up and you haven't studied, you haven't prepared, what's the most likely outcome going to be? You're most likely not going to get a good grade. You have to prepare yourself to do well in order to go in there and feel comfortable. If you go in and take a test and you haven't prepared, you're going to be nervous, you're going to be distracted, you're going to second guess yourself, and ultimately you're not going to get the result that you were after. Same with an actor on stage. If you're an actor and you're on stage at Broadway performing, if you don't prepare yourself, if you don't memorize your lines, if you don't practice and you don't rehearse, and you go up there on stage and you see the bright lights and the full audience, what's going to happen? You're going to freeze up, you're going to forget your lines, you're going to forget what you're supposed to be doing, and you're not going to succeed in what you're after. Same as an athlete. An athlete has to prepare for their sport. Whether you're playing basketball, football, track, any kind of sport, you have to practice, you have to prepare yourself, you have to put in the work outside of there. All the success you see from the Golden State Warriors isn't because they're just that talented, it's because they practice. They practice and they play as a team. And that's the key to success. Training, practicing, preparing to be the best you can be. Otherwise, you have no chance to win 3 titles in 4 years. 5. My favorite example is surfing. Surfing. Has anybody surfed before? Obviously, we're in the Midwest, so yeah, probably only one person who grew up in California. Yeah. So surfing is something I've always wanted to do. It's kind of on my bucket list. But I think surfing is the best example of preparation and patience. The waves roll through continuously. You never just start to see them coming until it's just about to happen. You start to see some breaks when you're out there in the water, but you really don't know if a wave is really, really good until you're on it, right? And once you're going down it, you don't know how well you're going to do until it's over, right? And that's kind of how it is with life. And it's very easy for us as humans to sit on the beach and watch others because it's natural for us to just be cautious, right? It's natural for us to not want to take risks. We don't want to die. We don't want to have anything bad happen to us, right? There's a fear element there. We don't want to fail. We don't want to look stupid. So we sit on the beach and we just watch the waves. And then we see somebody amazing doing something awesome out there. For example, in life, you have like Mark Zuckerberg, or for me, Devon Franklin, or whoever it is for you that you think you see doing well in life. That's what I want you to think about here. And they're doing great in life, and you look at them, and we look at the waves out there, and they're on the waves, and they're just riding it, and they're doing so well, succeeding in life, and you just say to yourself, I'd love to do that. I would like to be like that. But for whatever reason, we don't get out there on the waves with them. So what are the chances of us catching that wave if we're just sitting on the beach watching them? It's 0. We have a few seconds to see it when you're in the water. So you have to be out there. And if you're on the beach when the wave starts breaking, you don't have time to get out there. It's too late. So if the perfect wave comes along, you're never going to have a shot. And the chances of catching it are 0. So you have to get out there. You have to be in the water. So look at the people you admire. Think about what they are doing. What are they doing that's different than what you are doing? What kind of preparedness are they doing? If you're looking at people surfing, what are they doing? They're getting their board ready. They're waxing their board. They're practicing. They're out there. And even if they slam and lose every single opportunity that they get, every single wave that comes in the entire day, at least they're trying. They're trying to get better. And one day, when that perfect wave comes, maybe they'll catch it. Maybe they'll ride it. And waves are just like the rest of life. They are incalculable. You'll have 2 good waves in a row, and then you won't see another good wave for 30 minutes. And then, boom, when it shows up, it's the best wave you could ever imagine. And you can take a wave and ride it out, and as soon as you get to the shore, you can look back, and you look up, and it's that wave you've been waiting for the last half hour, and you just missed it. You're right there. You almost had it. The lesson is to get out there, because if you're not out there in the water, you're not going to have the opportunity to succeed. You have to prepare yourself to put yourself in the position to do the best that you can. So get out there, because you're never going to catch the wave if you're not prepared to do so. It's similar with a job interview. If you're going into a job interview, if you're a recent college graduate or you're just looking for a new job, you can decide to go in there unprepared. You can say, I'm just going to be myself and everything's going to work out if it's meant to work out, right? But if you're not prepared, you go into the job interview, they're going to ask you a question that you weren't prepared for, and then you're going to not have the right answer, you're going to stutter your words, you're going to be thinking about it, you're going to be distracted, you're going to lose focus, and odds are you probably won't get that job if you lose your mindset. There's a certain level of mental preparation that you have to do. Believing that you can do it is the key. You have to believe that you have the skill set to succeed. If you want to do something in life, you have to be prepared mentally to succeed. You have to practice your craft and study your craft, but if you don't have the mental preparation, you won't be able to fulfill your goals. So you have to have the right mindset, the right intentions, the right focus in your everyday life, in your schoolwork, your job, and your family life. If you want to be a good parent and you want to be a good father, you have to prepare yourself, because there are those trying times when your kids are screaming or when you get upset, you had a long day at work, you're dehydrated, you're overheated, and if you're not prepared to handle those situations, those tough environments, then when the time comes, you're not going to do what you were hoping you would do. You're not going to be the type of father or parent that you wanted to be. You have to prepare yourself. And timing is key. It's not going to happen on your time. It's going to happen on God's time. The enemy and opposite of preparation is procrastination. How many of you out there say, I'm a procrastinator? How many of you that were students were, I'm a procrastinator. I wait till the last minute to finish my assignment, to study for that test. Procrastination is the opposite of preparation. How often do we keep putting it off? Think about your New Year's Eve resolution. The day before the new year, what did you promise yourself you're going to do? A gym membership? And then you say to yourself, I'll just get one next month, right? You keep putting it off. You procrastinate. You don't get to where you want to be. How will you ever do what God intends for you to do if you don't get up and prepare for it? When we prepare for it, but it hasn't happened, you're still ready for when it comes, you're expecting it because you've been preparing for it. So if you're telling yourself, I'm going to get a gym membership, but you keep putting it off for the next month, you're never going to be in the shape physically that you wanted to be in. You're never going to reach that goal, that resolution that you had for yourself for the end of the year. It's the same with anything that you're praying for. You have to prepare for it. If you're praying for something, you have to be in tune what you're praying for so you can let everyone know, including yourself, where you're going, what you're praying for, what it's going to be. And when you begin to prepare, your whole body begins to shift. Your energy begins to shift. You don't look the way that you used to look. You don't talk the way you used to talk. You're not the way that you used to be because you're prepared. So whatever you're believing you are meant to do in your life, you have to prepare for it right now. And wherever you think God is going to move you to, you got to start packing your boxes. You got to be ready. You have to be ready now. And if you're not ready, when the time comes, you'll miss it. If you wait until it's your season for it, and you're just putting it off, and you're not thinking that it's going to happen, then you won't be ready, because you aren't prepared. So the message here is to be ready. Preparation is different than planning, though. You can plan your life all you want, but that doesn't mean it'll happen the way that you planned. In fact, it rarely does. God doesn't say, okay, thanks for sharing your plans with me. Now I'll bless you with those plans. I'll give you what you've planned for. That's not the case. That's not how it works. As I read in Proverbs 16:9, we can make our plans, but the Lord determines our steps. So think about your life. Think about all the stuff that you've gone through. Everything that you've been through. The ups, the downs. When you plan point A and you want to get to point B, in your mind you're thinking it's just going to be a straight across, right? I'm going to get from point A to point B successfully. But that's not the way that life works. It's an up and down, and you get to a point where you're stuck right there. After a lot of trials and tribulations, we tend to give up. We don't ever reach that point B because we've gone through so much. We weren't prepared to succeed. We weren't prepared to be there. So what I would suggest is to think about where God wants to take you in your life and take some time to say to God, let me and you spend some time together. So turn off your phone and ask him to show you the people that you need to bring into your life. Who are the people that you need to keep in your life? And start to plan your life with God. Prepare your life with God. Because God has the plan, and it's up to you to prepare to use your gift for his plan. We all have our own gifts, and we're all a part of his plan. So stop thinking about it as your plan. Stop looking at other people's gifts, and focus on what you can do, and reflect with him. Pray with him, asking him to help you achieve your purpose, to fulfill his plan. And when the time comes, the enemy will attack us with distraction. There's certain seasons that the enemy knows he can't beat. So he does this, he distracts us at the right time. He's waiting for that right moment to get to us. So when you're starting to pray and your phone goes off and then you get distracted, that's what he's doing right there. He's using that to distract you from what you're supposed to be doing. And the enemy is going to try to make us doubt what his plan is for us. So stop being so passive in your prayer life and your spiritual life. What you need to do is cast your anxiety and cast your worries and your fears on him and trust in your faith and keep your faith. Stay strong in your faith. You have to resist the enemy and stand up in your faith. You have to trust his plan for you consistently and persistently. That's the key. It has to be consistent. It has to be persistent because it's not going to happen on your time. So how many times have you prayed for something, but then when you woke up or you went to your car, you were nervous and worried instead of having that peace? Because you know that you prepared, you know you prayed about it, but you're still worried. You're still trying to do it yourself. You're not trusting. That happens to many of us. But you have to cast your stress and your worries and give it all to him. You have to give it up to him because you know you can't do it on your own. And though we don't know when Jesus will return, we should always be prepared spiritually for this event. Jesus gives us the perfect example for being prepared and living the Christian life. That's so important. That's really the key to your life. And while we patiently wait for Christ's return, as he often does, he teaches us the importance of being prepared in a parable, and is found in Matthew chapter 25, verses 1 through 13. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like this. 10 bridesmaids took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were wise. When the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them, but the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. As the bridegroom was delayed, all of them became drowsy and slept. But at midnight there was a shout, "Look, here is the bridegroom. Come out to meet him." Then all those bridesmaids got up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." But the wise replied, "No, there will be not enough for us and you. We had better go to the dealers and buy some for yourselves." And while they went to buy it, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went with him into the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later, the other bridesmaids came also saying, "Lord, Lord, open to us." But he replied, "Truly I tell you, I do not know you. Keep awake, therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour." Do you ever have anxiety dreams? Anxiety dreams are common, and most people have them from time to time about something that they've been stressing about, whether that's going to school or work or in your personal life. And the parable of the wise and the foolish bridesmaids is like an anxiety dream for followers of Jesus about his return. The parable is a strong reminder of the importance of readiness, of being prepared at all times for the second coming of Jesus. In a way, the parable is a lesson about the value of preparedness over planning when it comes to the future. The wise bridesmaids get to go to the party because they are prepared. They have the needed oil. The others had a plan. Let's go buy some oil when that time comes. But they missed the party. The biblical approach to the future involves prayer and preparation more than prediction and planning. This is true whether we are talking about our personal life, the church, the second coming of Jesus. Back to my surfing analogy, if you go to the beach when the wind is up, you see surfers catching the waves. The folks who truly love to surf basically do everything else in their life that they have to do just so they can get back in the water. Surfers don't plan the waves, they prepare to ride them when they roll in. We don't plan the future. Much of what happens to us is beyond our control. What we can do is prepare to deal with it when it rolls in. Personally, we don't plan much of what happens to us or to members of our family. Whether it's an illness or an accident, a death, a crisis, we don't plan these. They happen though, and at a larger level, much of what impacts our well-being happens outside of it, and it is outside of our control. One example is the quality of the air that we breathe is directly impacted by power plants and factories located in surrounding areas. We have no control over this. Obviously, events happening at the international or global level also impact our lives, even though they are beyond our planning or prediction. Typical approaches to the future used to involve prediction and planning. However, the rate of change is not as slow and incremental as it once was, and with the massive changes occurring in the world, prayer and preparation are going to be more effective than prediction and planning. Think about those surfers again. They wax their boards, they monitor the weather, and they get up early. They do everything in their power to be prepared to ride the waves. But the wind and the waves are totally out of their control. Throughout the Bible, we see God's desire for people to pray and prepare for the Lord's intervention. The Bible doesn't say much positively about people making plans and then offering them to God for a divine blessing. As I read Proverbs 16:9, the human mind plans the way, but the Lord directs the steps. And it has been said, if you want to make God laugh, tell God your plans. Proverbs 19 verse 21 teaches, the human mind may devise many plans, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will be established. This is a crucial, important truth for us to understand. What that verse says is that I probably should spend more time seeking to discover the purpose of the Lord for my life and for my family than I should for be devising plans about what I think God wants me to do or my family to do. In our own lives, we want to do everything we can to discover God's purpose for our lives. We want to be praying and preparing for God's intervention and His action so we can be ready to ride the wave of what God is doing in the world and in our life specifically. In Genesis chapter 12, God tells Abram to begin a journey, and He didn't tell him where he was going to go, and Abram couldn't plan the itinerary. All he could do was prepare by telling his family, wrapping up his business details, packing up, and setting out. John the Baptist preached saying, "Prepare the way of the Lord." He didn't say plan the way of the Lord, prepare the way of the Lord. The biblical truth is this: God does the planning, we do the preparing. God is the one who says in Jeremiah chapter 29, verses 11 through 13, "For surely I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for your welfare and not for harm, to give you a future with hope. Then, when you call upon me and come and pray to me, I will hear you. When you search for me, you will find me. If you seek me with all your heart." Notice that God doesn't say, "Let me know when you come up with your plans for the future that you want me to bless." He knows the plans He has for you. It's up to you to prepare yourself to be ready for His plan. Preparing involves calling upon the Lord, coming to God in relationship, and praying. Seeking the Lord with all of our heart. Our faith is not one more item on a to-do list. Our faith forms our to-be and to-do list. Throughout Matthew's Gospel, Jesus teaches people about living and growing in relationship with God. Jesus stresses that being spiritually alive means not just knowing religious information and being able to repeat it, but doing what Jesus teaches us regarding love for God and your neighbor. Right at the beginning of that parable, Jesus tells us that 5 of the bridesmaids were foolish and 5 are wise. Right off the bat, we know this. He tells us this. We can't tell it just by looking at them. All 10 have come for the wedding, and all 10 have their lamps in expectation. And all 10 have on their gowns. So you'd never be able to guess initially from appearances that half are foolish and half are wise. It's not the looks. It's not the lamps. It's not the long dresses that sets the wise apart from the foolish. It's the readiness. It's the preparedness. 5 of the bridesmaids are ready if the groom is delayed, and 5 are not. The wise have enough oil for the wedding to start whenever the groom arrives. The foolish only have enough for their own timetable. 5 are prepared and ready, even for a delay. 5 are not. Readiness in Matthew's Gospel is about living the life of the kingdom, living the quality of life described in the Sermon on the Mount. Many can do this briefly or sporadically, but when the kingdom is delayed and it takes longer for things to happen than we'd liked or we'd hoped, then that's when problems arise. Being a peacemaker for a day or two is not as demanding as being a peacemaker for year after year, week after week. When hostility or conflict breaks out between individuals or groups that you care about, that's when being a peacemaker can be difficult. It can be easy in your day-to-day, but doing it over and over again, being prepared, waiting patiently, that's where it gets difficult. Praying for those who persecute us and make life difficult and challenging for us, we can do that once or twice, but praying for them increasingly for a long period of time, that's hard. Being merciful for a day or two is one thing, but being merciful to others all the time and every day of your life, that's the difficult part. That's the hard part. And when the groom is delayed, it requires preparation. So over time, life will test you, and it will reveal who among us is prepared. Who among us are Jesus' followers that are prepared and ready, and who is not. It's not our appearance that it's going to tell us. Time will reveal. The bridesmaids who got shut out represent irresponsible disciples who simply weren't prepared for God's intervention. Their problem is not that they were sleeping, because the wise were sleeping as well. They were sleeping. But being watchful means being ready at all times, whether we're awake or asleep. And when we trust in God, we can sleep in peace and not in fear. We don't have to be afraid. that we're wasting time being asleep and we're not prepared, we're not ready. We have that peace. The wise bridesmaids were captured by a vision of importance of the bridegroom's visit. Their values are demonstrated in what they do, and they not only bring their lamps, they bring the flasks of oil as well. Values are demonstrated by behavior. What you do is what you believe. Everything else is just religious talk. Practice what you preach. The wise bridesmaids value invitation, return, and approval of the bridegroom so much they adjust their behavior accordingly to be ready. They are women who have pure hearts, who cultivate goodness, and who guard their speech. They are righteous women of faith, and in this parable, faithful waiting involves being prepared and ready, not planning and prediction. Matthew is making the point that disciples of Jesus are to be concerned with being ready when he returns, not predicting and planning when that might be. This clear teaching of Jesus is frequently ignored. So, will you be ready? Will you be prepared? For Matthew, readiness means living the quality of life described in the Sermon on the Mount, which is found in Matthew chapter 5 and throughout his gospel. We talked about this at Bible study on Wednesday, and I thought it was relevant to what I was going to be talking about today. I always find it interesting when God's timing works like that. Being ready involves the performance of good works, abstinence from bad behavior, and love for your enemies, love for other Christians, and the forgiveness of others. Unhesitating faith and loyalty to Jesus, love for God. This is God's plan for our life, which when he followed leads to love, joy, peace, and hope, which is what so many of us are wanting to find, right? Isn't that what we all want? Whenever we have guests over, most of us want to be prepared and ready, right? So as soon as you find out you're expecting guests, like on October 20th, right? What do? We prepare for guests. Whether it's family or friends, we don't want to be embarrassed. So when we have people over, we are just driven and motivated to pick up, to clean, to dust, to vacuum, because we're concerned about what people will think about our physical living, our space that we have, where we spend the majority of our time, and how that will reflect on us, right? Isn't that what we all do? I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but part of hospitality is creating a nice space for other people in our lives and in our living space. But what would it look like if we decided to clean up our lives just because we knew Jesus was coming? With that same urgency that we clean our home because some friends or relatives are visiting. Is that what we're supposed to do? Wait and then frantically clean, do the best we can to present ourselves with a clean heart? At the beginning of the journey of faith, you can't really tell the followers of Jesus apart. They all have lamps. They're all excited about the wedding. The longer the journey, though, the longer the journey of faith, and the later at night it gets, the clearer it becomes who are the wise and who are the foolish. Who is prepared and who is coming up with their own plans. Who is ready to ride the wave of God's intervention and action, and who will be left standing on the beach. Who will be invited into the wedding banquet, and who will be shocked to discover they have been shut out regardless of their claiming the right of confession of faith. As followers of Jesus, we are, in the language of the parable, to be like the wise bridesmaids who are ready at any time to respond to the call of the Lord. How prepared are you? Something to reflect on throughout the next week, month, years, the rest of your life. How prepared are you going to be? My goal is always to leave you motivated to prepare yourself to live the life you are meant to live, the life that God intended for you to live. Motivation is such an important thing because without it, we don't fulfill our purpose. So if you're still wondering what your spiritual gift is, if you're still wondering what your purpose is, what His plan is for you, reflect on that, pray about it, think about it, and in time you will discover it. It doesn't come to everybody at 10 or 12 or 15 or 30. Some people it's 60, some people it's 70, some people it's later. But if you're searching for it, you will find it. I have a video to show you.
The desire is hugely important. Yes, it is. But if you haven't prepared to win, then you better get prepared to fail. You have to have the guts to make things happen when there seems no chance for anything to happen. Nothing beats preparation mixed with desire. Sometimes you're going to have to get to your feet after suffering setbacks. Get back on your feet. Be prepared. Prepare yourself for success. Prepare to win. If you get knocked down, don't just get up. Get up stronger than you were before. Get up more determined than before. Have the desire and heart to follow everything through in your life. Leave no stone unturned. You don't have half a heart. Give it all your heart. 100% of your strength, courage, and application. And anyone who says you can't do it, prove them wrong. Prepare yourself because you've got this.
No matter what it is, whether it's your work life, your home life, family life, school life, do it with all your heart. Your spiritual life. Pursue Him with all your heart because you don't just have half a heart. Give it your all. Stay focused on it. Prepare yourself. Prepare your life. I was reflecting over this quite a lot. And the one word I would say to sum up how to be prepared in life is this word right here. Peace. Peace is a lot easier to do than you think. A lot of times it seems very difficult to obtain that peace and to keep the peace. And as we talked in our Bible study on Wednesday, there's a lot of different definitions for this word. So I invite you to think about it more and to reflect on what that word means in your life and how that can impact your life and how you can keep peace in your heart and to have peace in your everyday life all the time. Because if you have peace, then you will be prepared throughout your life. So finally, I want to close with another verse, 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. Finally, brothers and sisters, rejoice. Aim for restoration, comfort one another, agree with one another, and live in peace. And the God of love and peace will be with you.